네, 잠시 안내 말씀드리겠습니다. 잠시
Ladies and gentlemen,
고교 대사님만 오시면 바로 시작하겠습니다. 독일 대사님 바로 오실 것 같아서 오시고 시작합니다. 네, 그러면 시간이 되었기 때문에
Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the forum. Good afternoon, everyone. Be your moderator for the 2025 North Korean Human Rights Seoul Forum. I am Cha Su-ran.
네, 지난주까지만 해도
Last week, it was very hot. The temperature was over 40 degrees Celsius, but with the rain, temperatures have dropped slightly. We were quite concerned about the turnout because of the hot weather, but I think thanks to the weather, we are joined by many participants. This forum is being held under the theme, The Future of Unification That We Envision, and North Korean Human Rights. It is a significant event that aims to foster a shared understanding of North Korean human rights issues, explore sustainable international cooperation, and envision a unified future for the Korean Peninsula. Following last year's event, this is our second forum. We've brought together domestic and international experts on North Korean human rights and unification. We look forward to sharing diverse perspectives and solutions through the forum today. With that, without further ado, we would like to begin the Seoul Forum on North Korean Human Rights 2025.
네, 감사합니다.
Yes, thank you very much. Before we begin the forum, I'd like to introduce the VIPs in attendance. I will call out each and every one of our VIPs. When you hear your name, I would like to ask that you kindly rise and say hello to the audience and participants. Let me introduce the moderator for the panel, Mr. Nam Sung-uk, chairperson of the Seoul Metropolitan Peaceful Unification Foundation Committee. Next, I'd like to introduce His Excellency Georg Wilfried Schmidt, Ambassador of Germany to South Korea. Welcome. Next, I'd like to introduce Yoshiyasu Iseki, Minister for Political Affairs, Embassy of Japan in South Korea. Next, we are joined by Professor Kim Jae-chun from the Graduate School of International Studies of Seogang University. Also joining us is Mr. Lee Il-gyu, a Senior Research Fellow of the National Security Strategy Institute. He is also the former political counselor of the DPRK Embassy in Cuba. Next is Kim Min-jung, Deputy Director of the Division of Unification and Human Rights of the National Security Strategy Institute. And last but not least, we are joined by Song Han-na, who is the Director of the North Korean Human Rights Database Center. Welcome. And this forum is hosted by the Seoul Metropolitan Government. The mayor was supposed to join us, but we regretfully will not be seeing him today as he is unable to attend due to unforeseen circumstances. However, we are honored to have Mr. Kim Tae-gyun, Administrative Vice Mayor, join in his place. Many other distinguished guests are here with us today, and we would like to ask for your understanding that due to time constraints, we cannot introduce each of you individually. We have prepared a video that captures the themes and purpose of this forum. It is about 5 minutes long, so please, your attention to the screen.
우린 매일 선택합니다. 듣고 싶은 음악, 보고 싶은 드라마, 입고 싶은 옷까지. 그런데 이 당연함이 누군가에겐 죄가 된다는 걸 아시나요? 그저 웃었다는, 말했다는, 보았다는 이유로 고초를 겪거나 사라진 친구들이 있습니다. 우리에겐 당연하고 평범한 하루. 같은 하늘 아래 누군가에겐 결코 허락되지 않을 하루입니다.
북한에 있을 때 한국 드라마를 봤었어요. 그게 처음에 보면은 이게 거짓말이다라고 생각이 돼요. 왜냐하면 그 드라마 속에서 나오는 모든 상황들이 제가 있던 상황에서 뭔가 보기에는 너무 이질감이 느껴지는 거예요.
제 아래 학년 애들이 이제 보고 유포시켰다는 죄로 싹 다 그 어디 축구 경기장에다 모아놓고 걔네 아버지 엄마 다 갖다 앉혀놓고 보안원들이 나와서 판결문 있고 애들 여기 다 족쇄 채우고 머리 다 빰빰 밀고 그리고 그 죄 수복 입혀서 끌고 가는 것까지 다 보였어요.
일반적인 북한 주민을 단속해서 조사하는 것과 간부집 자녀를 단속해서 조사하는 것이 다르더라고요. 위에서 내리 꽂히는 거예요. 그거 하지 말라.
제 옆에 동료들을 보니까 저부터 시작해서 간부집 자식들이 한 명도 없었습니다. 아, 여기 최전방 군인들은 총알바지 느낌이구나 라는 생각을 좀 그때 많이 했던 것 같아요.
한국에서 핸드폰 사용하는 거는 너무나 당연하잖아요. 이제 그 핸드폰을 사용하다가 잡히는 바람에 이제 단련대에 다녀오시게 된 거죠. 그 단련대라는 곳에서 수많은 사람들이 죽어나가요. 이제 먹지 못해서 되게 힘들잖아요. 사람들이 허약해져 있는 상황인데 갔다가 와야 맞질 않는데 그러다 보니까 진짜 사력을 다해서 뛰는 거예요. 근데 힘이 없으니까 갔다가 오다가 막 기어오는 거예요.
그거 쓰면 그냥 바로 걸리면 그냥 바로 갑니다. 말 조심해라가 가장 북한에서는 엄마들이 애들한테 제일 많이 하는 얘기거든요. 오늘 집에서 한 얘기, 어제 집에서 본 거 나가서 얘기하지 마라. 용감하게 내뱉다가 뒤에서 그냥 보안원이 그냥 확 잡아채서 가는 경우도 있고.
애기들도 들어가요. 그 가족이 다 들어가다 보니까 그 친구가 그때 당시 13살이었던가? 그때 정치범 수용소에 들어가가지고 10년 만에
I know somebody who came out 10 years after being in a political prison camp after being placed there as a young child. So surveillance and self-criticism is the reality of North Korea right now. I think that I really wish that North Korean residents will have at least an hour to enjoy the freedom that we enjoy in South Korea. Then they will understand fully the true meaning of freedom. The fact that we can hear these stories today, I believe, brings somebody a step closer to hope. And the today and the daily life that we enjoy today is a dream for somebody out there. Thank you very much. It highlighted the human rights situation and reality in North Korea. I had no idea that children were also put away in political prison camps, so personally I was very surprised. Now we would like to welcome Mr. Kim Tae-gyun, Administrative Vice Mayor of the Seoul Metropolitan Government, for his welcome remarks. Please welcome him with a big hand. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kim Tae-kyung, Vice Mayor of Seoul Metropolitan City. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude and a very warm welcome to all of you attending the 2025 Seoul Forum on North Korean Human Rights. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Georg Wilfried Schmidt, German Ambassador to the Republic of Korea, and Mr. Iseki Yoshias, the Minister of Political Affairs at the Embassy of Japan to the Republic of Korea, as well as the experts actively involved in this field, both domestically and internationally, for taking the time to be here. I hope today's meeting will be a valuable opportunity to share knowledge and experiences regarding North Korean human rights issues and the future of unification. Yesterday marked the second annual North Korean Defectors Day. Last year, to commemorate the first ever Defectors Day, Seoul became the first local government to host a forum addressing North Korean human rights. This year, we've organized an even more meaningful discussion under the theme, The Future of Unification That We Envision and North Korean Human Rights. As you saw in the video, human rights are universal values that should be equally guaranteed to everyone. However, tragically, since the division, North Koreans have been living without their freedom. Their freedom has been deprived and their basic rights have not been protected. The international community is also paying close attention to the reality of North Korea's human rights situation. The UN Human Rights Council adopted a resolution on North Korean human rights for the 23rd consecutive year, condemning North Korea's human rights violations and urging the punishment of those responsible. And I believe bringing about meaningful change in North Korea's human rights situation is not an easy task. However, as one people, we have a responsibility to care and to strive for this change. The most certain way to improve North Korea's dire human rights situation is unification. Just as the human rights of East Germans were dramatically enhanced after unification, a unified Republic of Korea will fundamentally transform the lives of North Koreans. Seoul is preparing for a unified future by providing multifaceted support for the stable resettlement and integration of North Korean defectors. We will continue to do our best to ensure that North Korean defectors who have come here seeking freedom and human rights can enjoy a dignified life and enjoy happiness in their daily lives. And once again, I would like to thank everyone who is joining us at this forum today. I hope this event serves as a starting point for advancing North Korean human rights and bringing about an era of peace. Thank you.
네, 부시장님 따뜻한 환영의 말씀 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the warm welcome. I'd like to ask you to stay on stage for the commemorative photo. I would like to invite the moderator and also our VIPs and presenters to the stage for the commemorative photo. So we will resume the forum once the photo is taken. We were supposed to take a break before the forum, but we will begin the forum straight after the photo.
네, 기념 촬영 순서를 모두 마쳤고요.
The commemorative photo has been taken. We would like everybody to ask their seats. We will set up the stage immediately and begin the forum. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, we will not take a break and we will begin the forum straight away. As the stage is being set, I would like to give you some information on North Korean Defectors Day. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of this day. I personally did not know, but last year, 2024, the first North Korean Defectors Day Day was celebrated. It was designated last year, so this is the second year that we are celebrating North Korean Defectors Day. It was designated to remember and also support North Korean defectors in Korea. It is a day designed to further understanding of North Korean defectors and their plight with the ultimate goal of fostering unification. So there are many events that are being held throughout Seoul to commemorate this day, and this forum is one of those events. And starting Sunday to Friday, that is the 18th, this is North Korean Defectors Week. So at the Seoul Metropolitan Government and the Seoul Library, there are many exhibitions, performances, and talk shows that are slated until the 18th, commemorating this week. As for the information regarding North Korean Defectors Week, you can refer to the booklet that we are handing out today at the foyer for the information. I'm not sure if you noticed, in the lobby, we have a special exhibition panels, and so North Korean defector artists have shared their work with us, and I thought AI actually made these pieces, but someone told me that North Korean defectors who are currently art students actually drew the drawings, and the theme is their plight, the defection process, and their hopes for unification. And I'm sure that looking at these drawings, you will be able to, it will be able to serve as food for thought. We have set the stage for the panel discussion. Now I would like to invite the moderator and also the panelists to please take their seats. We have foreign panelists joining us, so please use the receivers for interpretation. So again, for foreign guests, please use the interpretation of receivers to take part in the panel discussion. I think everybody is seated and ready, so we will begin the panel discussion. So the theme of this forum is the future of unification that we envision and North Korean human rights. The moderator of this session is Mr. Nam Sung-wook, who is a chairperson of the Seoul Metropolitan Peaceful Unification Foundation Committee, and he is also a professor at the Department of Unification and Diplomacy at Korea University, and he is also a distinguished professor at Sungmyung Women's University. Please welcome him with a big hand, and also please note that among our panelists today, Professor Kim Jae-chun and Minister Iseki Yoshiyasu will need to depart early after their presentations due to scheduling conflicts. We appreciate your understanding. With that, I would like to hand over the mic to Professor Nam Sang-wook. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Our Minister for Political Affairs, Yoshiyasu Iseki, must leave us early because he has a meeting at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And Professor Kim Jae-chun must depart early because he must attend a meeting of the Global Political Sciences Society. As introduced, I'm Nam Sung-wook. I'm the chairperson of the Seoul Metropolitan Peaceful Unification Foundation Committee. The Seoul Metropolitan Government has created Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund, and through this fund we are making diverse efforts to enhance North Korean human rights and also to promote unification between the two Koreas. And the 2025 Seoul Forum on North Korean Human Rights is a part of these efforts by the Seoul Metropolitan Government. In Seoul, there are around 6,300 North Korean defectors living in the city, and the Seoul Metropolitan Government provides diverse support to these North Korean residents. defector residents. I would like to also take this opportunity to thank the North Korean defector residents in Seoul. And we have an esteemed panelist for the panel discussion today. We are joined by 2 foreign panelists and 4 Korean panelists. We will conclude at 4:15. That is the plan. So I will be able to give around 15 minutes to each of our panelists for their comments. The first panelist I'd like to invite is His Excellency Georg Wilfried Schmidt, who is the ambassador of Germany to South Korea. He's very energetic. He's also very passionate. He has a great interest in peninsular affairs. And it's a very, very great opportunity to hear his insight, especially because Germany has a history of division and unification, and Germany is frequently cited as a benchmarking model for Korea, and Germany is a great country for Korea to learn from. So with that, I would like to invite him to share his comments with us. Thank you.
감사합니다. 안녕하세요. 주한 독일 대사 개혁 �schmid입니다. 만나서 반갑습니다. Thank you for your kind introduction, and yes, we have the experience of division and national division, and I think it's been studied extensively in the south, but I presume also in the north, with all its consequences. And maybe before I go into the division part, today, like 35 years after reunification, we can still feel that there are differences. So whatever you talk and think about, it's not going to be over, because 40 years of division, the scars are deep, and that is not easy to deal with afterwards. Of course, our situation in Germany had some parallels, but some very important differences. We never had a civil war to begin with, which made things much easier, but we were locked in a very bitter confrontation in 2 blocks, and knowing that from also my family, which was also divided, so I had relatives in the east, and we were treated as the class enemy, the Klassenfeind. So that was the addiction in East Germany. And sometimes it's painful when you think about that. You sit on a family table and you ask your own family members, would you shoot? And they would say, well, if we ordered. So it was a tragic situation that even family members would be ordered to actually use violence against each other. There's another interesting parallel, because in 1974, East Germany changed its constitution. They changed it before, but they removed any notion of a united German nation. West Germany kept the notion there in several articles in our basic law in the constitution, and it was not easy to bridge the gap between different constitutional realities and the reality on the ground. And the reality on the ground is that, yes, there were 2 German nations, very different systems, but we had to deal with each other, and we had to deal first with peaceful coexistence. It's a long story how we dealt with it, but I think names are important. So we had a West German ministry for all German affairs for that. We wanted to make sure that relations with East Germany, it's not a foreign relation, because inside, we were both members of the United Nations, but we said, in the inside, we cannot be foreign nations. It's a very special relationship. And this ministry was renamed into Ministry for Intra-German Relations in 1969 in order to make it easier to have contacts between the 2 countries. And actually in 1974, the 2 countries decided to exchange permanent missions. So there was, so to speak, a West German embassy in East Germany and an East German embassy in West Germany. We never called it embassy because we said they're not foreign countries, but we called them permanent missions. And the history of these missions is quite interesting because it was a constant balancing act between some of the aspirations and the realities. And we did not want to provoke the other side. For instance, it was not possible for East German citizens to walk into the West German mission and apply for political asylum. That was one of the very strict preconditions. And we had to deal with the differences and with a lot of day-to-day problems like humanitarian visits and others. And the West German mission in East Germany was very careful not to destabilize the East German government because they would have closed it immediately. It stabilized the relationship at all, and I must say that the East German government, the reason why it fell was not because the West German influence directly on doing this or this or this. West Germany was always there as a model. But the main reason why it fell was because East German citizens went on the streets, they protested against the government, they wanted to have a different life and a better life, and they knew that the Soviet Union would not suppress them militarily. But there was a big risk because they didn't know whether their own government would actually use force on the people. And I think we have to remember this, that it was their courage that started the downfall of the East German government. And then it was a diplomatic dance that you can all read up about. But I think the role of East Germans in this process is often understated. Human rights, this is why we're sitting together here, played a very important role in our relationship. East Germany always demanded West Germany to stop documenting human rights, to stop talking about human rights, and to stop making it an issue. But we continued as the West German government right until 1990 with documenting that. It was a bone of contention. But we did other things in addition to that. We also, for instance, brought political prisoners out of prison. Some people accused us even of not only giving money to the East German government, but also to induce them to take more people into prison because then they could sell them. So there was the accusation of doing actually human trade with what we're doing, an incentive to put that. And I remember some of these debates also from the 1980s, and they were bitter. We could withstand the pressure from the East to stop talking about human rights because we also offered them other things. East Germany needed a lot of things from West Germany. And it's only because we had a very multifaceted relationship. That's why we could actually be firm on human rights. And for instance, we gave them credits. They wanted to trade with us. They wanted to have technology of transfer. And each of these interactions was difficult. Why do you give credit to a government which treats you as a class enemy? Not an easy question to answer. And when you look at the architect of the Ostpolitik, Chancellor Brandt, and if you look at the military spending of West Germany at this time, it's very interesting. Chancellor Brandt opened his hand and said, we have to have peaceful coexistence, we have to live together, we have to find a way to ensure that we don't accidentally come into a confrontation, that brothers don't shoot brothers, sisters don't shoot sisters. And at the same time, he made it very clear that he will not be bullied. So our West German military spending was quite high at that time. And I think that's a very delicate balancing act between the two German states. We were successful in our reunification. We had skill, but also a lot of luck. And what I said again, like we had East German citizens who were very courageous, and they had civil society also that stopped violence from getting out of hand and from vengeance to get out of hand in East Germany. Maybe I look at the clock. There were tense moments when East German demonstrators surrounded the secret police. They were very angry with the people inside. And the people inside were afraid, but they were armed. And what happened is that then civil society organizations surrounded them and they said, keine Gewalt, no violence. It will just make it worse. So also without these civil society organizations, I'm not sure whether we would have managed to actually have this whole process developing without a single shot fired. It seems like a complete mystery to me. It's a miracle and it's something we can be very thankful. So from this experience, there's some patterns that come up again and again in my discussions, and I just can say this is some of the key points in our road and path to reunification. But every situation is different. But think very often from a West German perspective, and I grew up in West Germany, although we had family in East Germany. What we should have done much more is also after reunification, but also in the run-up, to listen to East German voices. Because some of the problems that we're having today is that East Germans feel like second-class citizens in a united Germany, stem from the fact that their experience and their lives were not well known, were reduced to just human rights violations, were reduced to a dictatorship, and I think the reality in East Germany was much more than that. So I'm always happy when I can also hear that voices from North Korea are being heard and are being listened to in South Korea. And I think this is also what the day of the SKP is all about. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
네, 대사님, dankeschön.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. When I was in college, I studied the German language for about 2 years.
네, 지금 다 잊어버렸어요.
But I've forgotten most of it, unfortunately.
네, 분단.
Thank you very much. He gave us his comments on German unification and the unification process. Of course, German is a subject of envy for Korea. If we think about what we need to benchmark in the process of unification, it is true that there are more differences and similarities to Germany. I was once very much interested in Freikaufmann, which was buying freedom with money. From 1969, there was a policy or scheme where West German would pay for political prisoners, and they essentially bought their freedom. And there was a time when I really studied this scheme, and I thought about how we could apply it to the Korean Peninsula, but I never really got to the answer. How did the Germans make this system work? What was quite impressive about that time is that the German minister actually gathered the media, and he said that this is what we plan to do, but if you report on it, then it's likely to be unsuccessful. And that is when the heads of German media agreed not to write about it or report on it. So one could actually say that Germans were quite impressive, and I think maybe perhaps the conflict is not so deep because East Germany and West Germany did not engage in a civil war. In Korea, the scars and the trauma of war between brothers runs quite deep. And so later on in the panel discussion, it would be great to hear more about that buying freedom with money scheme later.
Next is Minister Iseki Yoshias. He has worked in Korea on different occasions, so he's very fluent in Korea. So Minister, the floor is yours. So it's a pleasure to meet all of you. As introduced, I am the head of the political section at the Embassy of Japan. My name is Iseki Yoshida. And first of all, I would like to thank the Seoul Metropolitan Government and also the mayor and also Chairperson Nam Sung-wook for hosting the Seoul Forum on North Korean Human Rights 2025. So I would like to extend my deepest respect to your efforts. So with regard to North Korean human rights, I would like to discuss with you the perspective of the Japanese government. So the human rights violation by North Korea, this is a serious concern for the international community and, of course, for the Japanese government. We are making various efforts to address this human rights violation. In particular, I would like to talk about the abduction issue. This actually undermines the safety of the Japanese citizens, and also it is a serious concern for the sovereignty of Japan. So it is something that we must address urgently. The abductees and and their families, when you look at it, the families are becoming older. And so the reason why I say it is an urgent matter is because we are running out of time. It is not a matter that we can take lightly. We must pay attention to this issue. For the Japanese government, we feel that this is a high priority for us. It's an urgent task for us. Without the resolution of the abduction issue, we cannot normalize our relationship with North Korea, and that is our principle. The abduction victims, whether they acknowledge all of them or not, we need to safely return the abductees home, and we are going to do our best to address the abduction issue. We want to also have the persons who are responsible to be held accountable, and we want full and clear clarification. There are 17 abduction victims of Japan, and 12 people have not returned home to Japan. In 2014, in May, North Korea agreed to the Stockholm Agreement, and this was an agreement between the two governments. So the abduction victim and those who are missing, all Japanese, would be the subject of investigation, and they did begin the investigation that year. But after 2016, after the North Korean nuclear test and after the testing of ballistic missile, this investigation, this effort by North Korea was suspended. And for the Japanese government, they carried out new measures. And so this was in February 2016. So North Korean regime, with regard to any type of engagement with the Japanese government, they suspended, which also included the abduction issue. And they announced that they will decommission the special committee that they had in place. For abduction issue, this is the most urgent issue for the Japanese government. And in 2014, May, at the Stockholm Agreement, the two governments reached an agreement, and we continue to ask the North Korean regime and urge the North Korean regime to comply with the agreements of Stockholm Agreement and to address the abduction issue. In order to resolve the abduction issue, the Japanese government must strongly address this issue. And in order to urgently solve the abduction issue, we need to work with Korea and the members of the international community. We need cooperation with the international community. For the Japanese government, we want to take advantage of all opportunities. For example, not only at the UN, but at the G7 summit, between the ROG-US summit, at the ASEAN summit, through the various international multilateral forums. We hope to raise the issue of abduction. And we want to highlight the importance and severity of the abduction issue. And this is the efforts being made by the Japanese government. And thankfully, the international community has provided us with broad support regarding our efforts. And at the United Nations, what are we doing? So in 2014 March, at the UN Human Rights Council, there was the COI. They carried out activities, and the COI published a report. And in that report, of course, it covers the various human rights violations that is taking place in North Korea. For example, the violation of rights to food, to life, being sent to political prisons. And so they cover the systematic, widespread, and gross human rights violation in North Korea, and it is illustrated in this report. And in this report, it says that most of these human rights violations account for crimes against humanity. And the There is a special rapporteur of UN human rights, and we also work with the Seoul office of the UN OHCR. And also with Korea, we are working closely with the Korean government as well. Of course, there is the summit meetings. So in all various channels, we are raising the issue of North Korea's human rights violations. And now, with the new president in office, with President Lee Jae-myung's administration, and on June 9th, he had a phone call with the Prime Minister Ishiba, and Prime Minister Ishiba also raised the issue of North Korean abduction issue, and the two leaders discussed how to address this abduction issue, and they actually had a meeting soon after, and in the meeting they talked about the nuclear missiles program as well as North Korea human rights issue. And the two leaders agreed to work closely between the two governments. And not only that, but at the ministerial level, at the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, on that occasion, there was a foreign ministers meeting between Korea, U.S., and Japan, and the Korean government, the U.S. government have consistently shown their support to the Japanese government regarding the abduction issue. And our foreign minister also expressed his gratitude to the foreign minister of Korea and the United States. So not only trilateral, but on the international stage, the Japanese government is working closely with other parties. And at the UN General Assembly, as co-sponsors, we adopted the North Korean human rights resolution. And in this resolution, all abduction victims, all of those issues must be immediately resolved. And Korean, Japanese, all of those who have been abducted to North Korea, they should be immediately returned home. And so we also talked about North Korea denying the return of the prisoners of war and the abductees. And so in the resolution, it called for finding out, providing clarification about the whereabouts of the victims and the prisoners of war. So Korea and Japan, with regard to North Korean human rights issue, even to this day, is working very closely in the international stage. And the Japanese government will continue to work closely with the Republic of Korea and other countries around the world to address the abduction issue as well as North Korean human rights issue. So thank you very much. So thank you very much for that, Minister. So as you just heard, in 2014, COI actually released their report, and they talked about the crimes against humanity committed by North Korea, and this report led to heightened interest in the human rights situation in North Korea. And the Japanese government, I think, has a sort of a different sort of approach, take on the North Korean human rights issue, because they're focused on the abduction of Japanese citizens. They want the quick return of these abductees, and they want to find out whether these abductees are alive or dead. And so the prime ministers of Japan, when they meet with the president of the United States, the first sort of issue that they raise is the abduction issue. And of course, they are trying to protect their own citizens, and the Japanese government's efforts, I believe, are highly commendable. The Japanese government, moving forward to address the abduction issue, of course, there needs to be various channels of dialogue between North Korea and Japan. But however, I think we will have to wait and see what happens, and of course we will pay attention to what happens.
Next, I would like to invite Professor Chae-chun Kim of the Graduate School of International Studies of Seogang University for his comments. Thank you for the kind introduction. Personally, it's a great honor to be able to take part as a panelist. I will be talking about North Korean human rights and unification and what sort of correlation there is between the two topics. North Korean human rights and unification are very important issues, but I believe that these two topics will not be that popular for the next 5 years, so I am quite concerned. So these two topics, as I mentioned earlier, are very big topics. I will attempt to comment on these two topics. Let me go straight to the conclusion. North Korean human rights issues is something that we cannot push back or sideline as we discuss the unification of the two Koreas. Usually when we talk about North Korean human rights, many people think of unification by absorption. So they feel that it is a policy tool for the US or South Korea, which aims to achieve unification through absorption. And some students question whether it is appropriate or possible to think about North Korean human rights and apply it to North Korea when they believe that human rights is a largely Western construct. So what is human rights? As mentioned by the Vice Mayor earlier, I think that it is quite simple. Wherever you were born, you have the right to very basic rights that enable you to live life as a human being. So human rights are very basic rights. For instance, basic right to life. Everybody has the right to live without being under threat of torture or threat or pressure by the government, and the right to freedom, the freedom to express yourself, the freedom to believe in whatever you want. That is a basic right. The right to religion, the right to expression, the right to movement. These are all very basic human rights. And another example is a basic right to respect, a basic right to pursue happiness. So the basic right to pursue integrity and happiness is also a very basic human right. So these are very basic concepts of human rights, and these concepts were sort of summarized by Western society, but it is still applicable to everybody. It can be applicable everywhere and anywhere to anybody because it is a universal right. If you look at the global society today, there are climate change and there is a lot of conflict. So there are many significant challenges around the world today. But despite this, there is one thing I would cite as humankind's most significant achievement in the past 50 years, and that is that human rights is now deeply rooted as a universal right. So what can we do to enhance human rights? We need a free and peaceful and prosperous society in order to enhance human rights. If you look at Korea, Korea has a lot of challenges as well, and there are a lot of issues. But when it comes to freedom and peace peace and prosperity, I believe that Korea is on that trajectory. And I think that this is a continuum of efforts made by our ancestors. However, unfortunately, North Korea seems to be going the other way. It seems to be going in the opposite direction. So now I would like to also talk a little bit about unification. I don't believe unification will happen overnight. We need to have very tight unification policies. That is what some people believe, but I don't believe that. But I do believe that we need a basic yearning for unification. And that needs to be sustained. So at the end of the day, we need a yearning and we need a vision for unification. Let me elaborate on the vision. What sort of unification do we want to achieve? What sort of vision do we have to have when it comes to unification? As I mentioned earlier, I believe that South Korea is pursuing freedom and peace and prosperity as our ancestors did, and we need to broaden that vision for the Korean Peninsula. Unification is not simply a physical unification of North and South Korea. It is more than sort of a geographical marriage. It is about sharing a universal value of freedom and peace and prosperity with North Korea, and guaranteeing the human rights of North Korean residents is at the core of human rights. And that is why I believe North Korean human rights issues is fundamentally linked to the idea of unification. And I believe that our policies need to target North Korean residents, not the North Korean regime. As you know, North Korea currently pursues two hostile states. So whatever type of unification we pursue, the North Korean regime is likely to be uninterested. So does that mean that we should give up on unification? I don't think so. If we have a vision and we have a policy that is targeted towards North Korean residents, I think we will be able to stay on this path. We need to help North Korean residents understand human rights, and we need to help guarantee their human rights. So North Korean residents must come to understand that unification means that they will be able to enjoy peace, freedom, and prosperity. And we need to keep and sustain this vision of unification. North Korean human rights issue is actually very important in legitimizing unification in the international community. North Korean human rights is not simply a humanitarian issue, but it is also an issue that is the fundamental reason that gives unification, the case for unification, legitimacy. North Korean human rights has been defined as a crime against humanity. So we need to pursue policies to advance North Korean human rights, and only then will the international community recognize the efforts for unification as a legitimate effort for unification. Also, it can provide a foundation for collaboration with our allies. I think that I'm sure you know that domestically and also outside of Korea, it's a very difficult time to be discussing unification. And added to that, the younger generation of South Korea are not very interested in the issue of unification. And if you look at inter-Korean relations are not great, and also South-South rivalry in the international community, and the fact that many countries are pursuing self-interest is what all adds up to an unfavorable environment for us to continue to advance North Korean human rights or pursue unification. But despite this, I think we need to hold steadfast in our vision for unification. So we need the vision and we need the yearning. I'm sure you all heard of Poland. Let me tell you a story about Poland and then wrap up. If you look at Poland, for about 123 years, it could not be found on a global map. So these were very dark times for Poland, but they did not give up on the idea of a country, and they had a very strong yearning to establish their own country, and they had a strong vision for it. And as a result, after the Second World War, when international relations and the international world was in upheaval, they were able to grab the opportunity to establish their country, and they were able to build a country once again because they held on to their vision and they had a yearning. So I think that where there is a will, there is a way. So we must not give up on our vision, and we must hold on to our yearning for unification. And where there is a will, I believe there is a way for us as well. Thank you very much, Professor Kim, for your comments. He wrapped up with the example of Poland, and he also talked about North Korean human rights and unification. Thank you for your comments.
한반도의 통일을 원한다라는 목소리
I think if South Koreans don't make it clear that we hope for unification, for foreign parties, they would not be that interested whether we are unified or not. But if we consistently make our hopes known, only then can we expect to grab the opportunity to achieve unification when there are big changes in the international community. When I went to Germany earlier and I met the ambassador of Germany, I asked for a tip, and I was told that we should seize the opportunity when it arises. And I hope that when the opportunity arises, we will have the yearning and the vision to be able to achieve unification that is acknowledged by the international community. Thank you very much, Professor Kim. He also mentioned earlier that the topic at hand will likely be unpopular for the next 5 years. But North Korean human rights is a universal topic that is free from, I think, political views, so it should be consistently discussed.
Next, from North Korea, we have Lee Il-gyu, who is the former political counselor at the DPRK Embassy in Cuba, and today he serves as Senior Research Fellow at NSS. And these days, he also is writing a column for Chosunilbo, Chosun Daily News. And we hope to hear about the real examples from North Korea. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Lee Il-gyu, and I understand I have about 10 minutes or so I'm going to skip my personal introduction and try to keep it concise. And first of all, I would like to thank the host for inviting me as a speaker at the Seoul Forum on North Korean Human Rights 2025. And there are 35,000 North Korean defectors who have come to Korea, and to represent them and to talk about North Korean human rights with you, it is an honor, and I would like to thank everyone and members of the international community community who have been supporting our activities. With regard to North Korean human rights issue, I've met many experts since coming to Korea, and I've engaged in discussions. And sometimes, I don't really want to talk about human rights issue in North Korea. As you know very well, there are economic development, the situation in a country, the tradition, heritage, culture, religion. All of these can be different among countries, but as humans, the universal human rights value must be guaranteed for people, and North Korea does not guarantee this very basic fundamental right. And so this is a reason why I continue to raise the issue of human rights violation in North Korea. So I think we have to look at North Korea from we cannot just simply compare North Korea and other countries. And as a diplomat that served North Korea, just like the other diplomats, one of the most important responsibilities that I had was to stop others from attacking North Korea on its human rights violation issue. And when the international community pressured human rights, myself and many North Korean diplomats know that there is room for us to maneuver. So as I served the North Korean regime in Cuba, and after coming to Korea, I continued to read a newspaper from Cuba. President Trump actually imposed a second round of sanctions around Cuba. And so the president of Cuba, the first lady of Cuba, their two sons, one daughter, so their whole family is now forbidden from entering the United States. In 2021, in July, in Cuba, there was a massive government protest, and the reason for this sanction was that they suppressed this uprising. So I don't think that there was serious human rights violation, but because it was politically misused, I think that there was a lot of criticism for the government of Cuba, and so the issue of human rights was raised. I met the president of Cuba many different times, and he does not engage in succession like the Kim family. He has an 8-year tenure. Cuba and North Korea have many different similarities. It's a one-party communist party that rules the country, and there are many similarities. But I think that imposing sanctions on the president of Cuba, but on the other hand, he's sending, he's trying to right now try to engage with Kim Jong-un. So human rights is used as a method to pressurize a country. The North Korean human rights issue, as you know, in North Korea from after 1945, after liberation, the North Korean regime adopted the socialist regime, and not once had they been free from human rights violation. In my father's generation, and before I became an adult, I never knew the word human rights. So, of course, there's not just abuse of human rights. People are perpetrators and victims. So, in North Korea, you are a perpetrator and at the same time victim of human rights abuse and violation. In 1994, when Kim Il-sung passed away, and then where's the arduous march that took place, many North Korean defectors left North Korea and shared their stories, their experiences of human rights violation, and that was a point when the international community started to take interest in the situation in North Korea, and the international community has continuously pressured the North Korean regime. And so throughout the years, the North Korean regime, they have actually made some improvements in human rights abuse, and the situation in the human rights situation in North Korea has actually, there have been some positive changes and some negative changes under Kim Jong-un. Of course, overall, the human rights situation is very dire. But if you look at, some positive aspects, they build houses to provide housing to people. They are now building and operating nurseries and orphanages for young children. They have policies in place favorable to the underprivileged. And they have been trying to restrain their officials from suppressing North Korean citizens. So there are some positive changes, and the background to that is because Kim Jong-un wants to improve his image as a benevolent leader, and he wants to stop the international community from pressuring the North Korean regime. So, of course, with regard to the North Korean human rights violation, we could talk for hours, but under Kim Jong-un regime, the human rights situation overall, of course, has deteriorated. The United States and the superpowers, they are not really concerned about military attack from these superpowers. They are looking more at the discontent of the ordinary North Korean citizens, and so using the party, they are carrying out surveillance, controlling, and public execution of the people, ordinary citizens, and this has actually worsened under Kim Jong-un regime. And there's a lot of examples that I prepared, but I don't think I will have time to go through it all. So there's very serious violation of human rights in North Korea, and how do we address the situation in North Korea? So first of all, I think that close cooperation with the international community is very important. Of course, every March in Geneva, and then in November in UN, the North Korean resolution is adopted, and there's continuous pressure put on North Korean regime. Of course, in the short run, this will not bring about visible changes to the human rights situation in North Korea, but as I mentioned before, the North Korean regime actually is sort of trying to adjust the level of human rights violation, and I believe that this was because there is pressure from the international community. So we have to continue to pressure North Korean regime, and improving human rights in North Korea, we also have to make sure that North Korea is not building close relationship with like-minded countries like Cuba, Venezuela, China, Russia, and these socialist regimes. These countries, of course, are being attacked by the human rights situation in their countries, and so North Korea might join hands with these countries, and so we have to sever the connection between North Korea and these countries. The North Korean human rights violation issue, it's very unique. If you go to Geneva, and I said this to Geneva, so just because, someone from Beijing use Cantonese, they're not going to be sent to political prison camps, and just because someone watches the internet, they're not publicly executed. So North Korean human rights violation is very unique. It's like no other country. So I think we need to separate North Korean human rights issue from the human rights violation we see in other countries. And the last thing I would like to talk about is close cooperation between NGO and the civil society. So these type of forums, religious groups, private groups, they also need to be involved. They need to report on the violation that is taking place in North Korea. They need to bring about heightened interest in North Korean human rights issue. Then many people in Korea and abroad, even those people who are not interested in North Korean human rights issues, will be able to understand about the dire situation and take interest, and I'm sure that that will help us to improving the situation in North Korea. So there are 35,000 North Korean defectors in Korea, and I would like, on behalf of those North Korean defectors, I would like to once again thank you for your interest and support in addressing the North Korean human rights violation issue. Mr. Yeo-gyu, thank you very much for your remarks. He speaks quite fast. I think you spoke for 10 minutes, but in terms of the content, it was worth 20 minutes. So the major role of a North Korean diplomat is trying to make sure they deflect criticism about the North Korean human rights situation. That's an important role. And you said that when you were in North Korea, sometimes your your human rights are violated, but at the same time, you're also a perpetrator, and that you did not know about this concept of human rights in North Korea. So if you don't understand the concept of human rights, you don't know if your rights are being infringed upon, you don't know if you're violating another person's rights. And so this is a reason why the international community must voice their concerns.
북한에서 오신 우리 일기 참사님 말씀이 굉장히
So he spoke really fast, and I thought about why is he speaking so fast, and I thought maybe because when he was young, he was in North Korea, he was sent to a child care center, and he had to defend himself, so that's why he learned to speak very fast from a very early age. Is that, I don't know if I'm right, but maybe you can share with us why you speak so fast. And next,
이제 정보 때문에 읽어보는데
so sometimes I read the North Korean media, and sometimes, like the sentences are really long. One sentence is like 5 sentences. So I think the way they write is very similar to the Chinese media. And so sometimes I think that is why people speak very long. So there is sort of that cultural, I think, characteristic.
네, 우리 일기 참사님하고 같은 연구원이죠.
Next, I'd like to invite Min Jung Kim, who is from the same institute as Mr. Lee Il-gyu, the National Security Strategy Institute. It is located near Dokok-dong Tower House, which is an area with very high property prices. She is the Deputy Director of the Division of Unification and Human Rights at that institute. First of all, I would also like to thank the Seoul Metropolitan Government for the invitation to attend this forum. This morning, I was asked to prepare a presentation material, but it turns out only 2 of us have prepared presentation materials. And I actually prepared this for 15 minutes, so I may have to skip over some slides. I ask for your understanding. As mentioned earlier, the North Korean human rights issues is a key strategy and tool to gain legitimacy for unification. If we go a step further, however, I believe that human rights is a core issue of unification and peninsular issues. It is 2025, but since 1999, I have been involved in North Korean human rights issues. Currently, I am, as the moderator mentioned, I am part of the National Security Strategy Institute. In 1999, I was part with a human rights organization. At the time, 1/4 of the population of Korea, we got signatures, and we submitted this to the UN General Assembly and also the Senate of the U.S. Regarding North Korean human rights. The reason I bring this up is because it was mentioned that for the next 5 years, it is quite likely that the North Korean human rights issue will not be a popular topic. At the time when I was driving the petition and getting signatures, in 1999, the mood was very reconciliatory. So the relations between the two Koreas was quite favorable. And at the time, our activity was broadcasted in the daily news for about 5 years. And at the time, the media would report on this issue quite frequently. And it is true that when it comes to North Korean human rights issues, there is waning and rising interest depending on what type of government is in power. Last year, or rather, when I was driving the petition at the time, I had leaders from both parties attend an event. And if you look at the National Assembly right now, there is a bipartisan organization related to North Korean human rights. And it is true at this time, there is less participation on the part of lawmakers of the Democratic Party. But this bipartisan organization was established in 2004, and it still exists today. And while it is true that North Korean issues can be politicized and it is marginalized from time to time, I am still hopeful. And I think that the turnout today shows the interest in North Korean human rights issues, regardless of what is going on politically. Today, I would like to talk about the freedom of information in North Korea. I believe that this is the first step in enhancing North Korean human rights, and I believe that this is perhaps one of the most basic solutions to the North Korean human rights issues. Today, I want to talk about the background of information control in North Korea, and I think that the North Korean regime and the residents are engaged in sort of a Tom and Jerry sort of game. So they have surveillance and censorships evolving, and the residents are becoming more and more inept at being able to overcome and override these schemes. So from the North Korean regime's perspective, they are using the blockage of information as a way to maintain their regime. And there is still a general view that looks at North Korean human rights and nuclear development as separate issues. But in my view, these two are tools to strengthen the North Korean regime. And so these two are intricately linked. And so while they are developing nuclear weapons to deter outside forces, within they are strengthening information surveillance to heighten control of the North Korean residents. So before we move on, I brought two maps. Here you have travel alert map by the U.S. State Department. So colored in red here, and this is a map of the freedom of internet. So here you can see red as well. So why don't we look at the two maps side by side? You can see most of the countries that have a very little internet freedom tend to overlap with countries that the State Department has issued travel warnings from. So of course they don't overlap exactly, but you can see the relation. So you can see that information control is directly related to human rights, and this is directly related to security issues. So if we are not able to solve this information control, then this can have a direct impact on security issues. So even after we achieve unification, freedom of information is critical to secure and guarantee a free and peaceful and prosperous Korean Peninsula. So now I want to go and take a look at the reality of North Korea. As of 2022, internet penetration rate of North Korea is 0.07%. There are about 20,000 people in North Korean residents able to use the internet, but that is still the lowest in the world at 0.07%. I'm sure all of you know North Korea has the best IT cyber attack capacity. North Korea is fifth after China, Iran, and Russia. So they are very inept at spreading ransomware and carrying out cyber attacks. So while they are cutting off information through the internet, they are actively fostering hackers. And if you look at North Korea, it's kind of like the economy. They have the 장마당, which is a free market, and then they have the government-controlled economy. And this is how the internet is also tiered. And so the residents are only able to access a very closed intranet developed by North Korea, while the cyber attackers are fostered using the general internet. And as I mentioned earlier, you can get a whole picture of what is going on in North Korea by looking at what the North Korean regime is doing and how the North Korean residents are searching for digital freedom. So actually, I could spend more than 10 minutes on this slide, so I will try to make it concise. So the North Korean regime so far has used all means to control the flow of information to its residents. And so that is why it has the lowest internet usage rate in the world. However, North Korean residents are not just sitting on their hands doing nothing. They are looking for diverse ways to access information. I'm not sure if you know, but Wikipedia is accessible to North Korean residents, and North Korean regime has enacted new laws, and it continues to update its software, and it is taking active measures to block the usage of the internet by its residents. And next, I would like to highlight the trends in terms of freedom of information globally. In the U.S., there is something called the NDAA. This is a basic act that determines the national strategy of the U.S. And there is a particular provision related to the strategy related to the information, freedom of information. And also, there is a light con. This is a very well-known global event for freedom of information. And the U.S. has provided $1 million in support of this event. I bring this up to take a look at what Korea should be doing. So if you look at the international trends of the global community, we need to take a look at what the Korean government is doing. And I searched through 10 years of records, but the Korean government is not taking part in any activities to enhance the freedom of information in the internet. And I'm sure Professor Nam knows, but the Korean government has not cooperative. And so the LICON event was once scheduled to be held in Korea, but because of the lack of government support, it was relocated to Taiwan. And this was the case because the organizers could not get a visa from South Korea. And so the government, I believe, and also the private sector needs to lend more active support to these global movements. Thank you very much.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much. I would like to introduce the Otto Warmbier Act. Otto Warmbier, it was a student born in Ohio. He was 22 years old, and he was curious to know the world. So he registered with a Young Pioneer tourist company, and he visited North Korea. And he was staying at Korea Hotel, and he got off on the wrong floor, and there were a lot of North Korean posters, and he looked at these North Korean posters, and the North Korean regime took Otto Warmbier, and they imprisoned him for about a year and a half, and he was the subject of torture. And North Korean regime decided to contact the U.S. because they realized that Otto Warmbier was going to die. And so he died 1 week after being returned home. So a middle-class U.S. citizen went to North Korea as a tourist, and as a result, he died. So from the U.S., in order to prevent such an incident from happening again, enacted the Otto Warmbier Act. And it is true that some very weird things happen in North Korea. And in order to minimize these weird events that happen in North Korea, we hold a lot of forums, and many international community players are making efforts.
So our last panelist is Song Han-na, the Executive Director of the North Korean Human Rights Database Center. After the 2014 CI report, a lot of young researchers began interested in the situation in North Korea, and they are working in the field. And Han-na Song is a very young Executive Director. She represents MZ generation researchers. She's very active. So please welcome her with an extra loud round of applause. So thank you very much. As introduced, I'm an MZ generation researcher, Han-na Song. I'm the Executive Director of the North Korean Human Rights Database Center. So we heard that there were 4 Koreans and 2 foreigners, and I was wondering if I should deliver my presentation in Korean. But as a human rights activist, I'm always interested in the minorities and the underprivileged. And so because there are foreigners joining us, I would like to deliver my presentation in English.
Han-na Song from the Database Center for North Korean Human Rights. It's an honor to speak today at the second North Korean Human Rights Forum that the Seoul Metropolitan Government has arranged, held in commemoration of North Korean Defectors Days. This week, as you may know, has been filled with meaningful events marking this important occasion, a day to pay tribute to the strength, courage, and resilience of the North Korean people, who have made an extraordinary decision to leave everything behind in search of freedom. It's a day to listen, to acknowledge, and to honor their journey. At NKDB, the organization that I represent, our work began with those very first stories, accounts that came not from governments or experts, but from the brave individuals who had lived through the unimaginable. Their testimonies revealed a reality that has been hidden from view for far too long. Now, 22 years since our official founding, our database has grown to hold more than 150,000 entries. Each one a piece of truth, a piece of history. This data is not just numbers. It's a foundation for a future in which the voices of the North Korean people can be heard freely, without fear, and with the dignity they deserve. As many of you know, and has been mentioned several times today, last year marked 10 years since the release of the COI report. For many of us in this room, this report was a turning point. It laid bare the systematic, widespread, and grave human rights violations happening inside the DPRK. And everybody, the international community, acknowledged that the crimes against humanity could no longer be denied or hidden. But let's be honest, 10, 20 years later, many of us feel something else too. We feel fatigue. We've seen the headlines, we've attended the many North Korean human rights forums, and we think we know the stories. There are also almost no North Korean escapees escaping the DPRK. We used to see almost 3,000 people coming to South Korea every year. After 2020, we had 229, 2021, 63, 2022, only 67 people coming to South Korea. Last year, we had 236 people, most of whom had spent more than 10 years in China. And it can often feel like nothing has changed. But the question I want all of us to take away with us today is, does this fatigue automatically mean indifference? Is there nothing really we, in our respective roles, can do? Every year, NKDB conducts an annual survey with 1,000 South Korean residents, and we ask about their level of interest on North Korean human rights. Last year, 65.5% of respondents said they are still interested in North Korean human rights. What's also interesting is that if we analyze their age, gender, region, and political affiliation, there is not actually a difference in response of whether they are right-leaning or left-leaning. 1/3 of those who said they are interested in North Korean human rights said because they care about the suffering of the North Korean people. What's more striking is that only 16% said it was because of unification. People are no longer just interested in North Korean human rights because of a shared national identity. They are concerned because of universal human rights values. And while some may affiliate the North Korean human rights issue with a particular party, our research has shown that's not actually reflective of the South Korean public. And this shift is quite important. However, when asked why they might feel indifferent to the issue of North Korean human rights, another 1/3 said there's no solution. That sense of helplessness is our greatest obstacle, and also, I believe, our greatest opportunity. So where do we go from here? One way forward is to stop seeing North Korean human rights as an isolated issue, and instead connect it to the broader human rights movement and what we often call an intersectional approach. Take, for example, the rights of persons with disabilities. In August, in just a month from now, the DPRK, North Korea, will undergo its first ever review under the CRPD, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, in Geneva. This is an unprecedented opportunity, not just for the international community, but for other civil society organizations not working on North Korean human rights issues to engage and to raise questions that go beyond politics and instead focus on people. Another area where intersectionality matters is gender. Over 70% of North Korean escapees are women. Many of them have faced sexual violence, trafficking, and forced marriage, especially during their escape. We saw how the South Korean women's rights groups stood up for Me Too. Yet why are they not speaking up for the North Korean women? We need to change that. Women's rights organizations and survivors themselves must have a greater role in shaping this movement. But as we think about expanding this movement, bringing in women's groups, disability rights advocates, and other sectors, we must also acknowledge a difficult reality. There are limits to what we can do if things do not change. Many of the NGOs working in this space, including my own, are under enormous strain. In particular, US government funding cuts have deeply affected our ability to document cases, support victims, and advocate internationally. This is a moment to ask, where do we focus? What is more essential? And why have we been relying only on the US for so long? What have other governments? What has South Korea? What has Seoul Metropolitan City? What have we been doing? One clear answer is this: it's time to put North Korean escapees at the center of the movement. North Korean Defectors Day has become a meaningful milestone, not just in recognizing those who have escaped the regime, but in reaffirming that they are not merely victims of abuse, but full participants in shaping our society and our future. Just last week, we witnessed a powerful example of that. Ms. Che, who is with us today, a North Korean defector, filed the first ever lawsuit as a North Korean victim against the regime with the support of NKDB's lawyers. Let's think about that for a moment. It's been 10 years since the COI exposed the regime's crimes against humanity to the world, and only now, 10 years later, are we seeing the first legal case brought forward by a North Korean victim. Why has it taken so long, and why has it been so difficult for victims, lawyers, and human rights organizations to come together and pursue justice? Part of the answer lies in the many barriers defectors still face, even after resettling here in South Korea. North Korean escapees remain some of our most important connections to an increasingly isolated regime. With fewer than 30 people escaping the DPRK in the past 5 years, a dramatic drop from the thousands we once saw, those who are already here now are more vital than ever. They speak the same language, they understand the society, they have family members still inside North Korea. And yet, when they send money to loved ones or simply reach out to stay in touch, they are not met with support, but with surveillance, legal threats, and crackdowns. This is not just a policy failure, it's a human rights violation in itself. Because at its core, the ability to talk to your family, to help your relatives survive, to stay connected to where you come from, this is one of the most basic and fundamental rights we all hold dear. And it's precisely because North Korean escapees serve as living bridges to those still trapped inside that we must protect them. But here's a deeper issue. Where can we hear the voices of the North Korean people? Where can we see that these connections can be strengthened? And where can we as ordinary people go to listen, learn, and act? And I believe the answer lies in something we've been missing, a shared platform. This is why NKDB for the past few years has been talking about creating a North Korean human rights museum. This is not just to remember the past, but to engage with the present. A place where silence is not an option. A place where we ask, what can we do now for the people of North Korea? We travel around the world and we visit museums dedicated to human suffering. We go to visit Holocaust museums, the Rwandan genocide, killing fields of Cambodia. And on the walls of these many museums, we see the same words engraved, never again. Never again will we let such horrors take place. But today, that never again is being broken every day in North Korea. Decades of human rights violations, political prison camps, public executions, thought control, and silence. And we know this is happening. We see it in NKDB's database, we see it in satellite images, we see it in UN reports, and we see it in the eyes of those who have survived and escaped. The question is not, do we know? The question is, what are we doing with what we know? I often think of a poem that commemorates the Holocaust. It goes, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Who's speaking for the North Korean people? It's important to build not just a North Korean human rights museum on the outsides of Seoul where we hope that people can go. It's important to build it in the center of Seoul to show how important Seoul metropolitan government thinks of the North Korean human rights issue. At the moment, NKDB has a small, humble exhibition space in the heart of Chonggak that opens tomorrow that you're all very welcome to visit. But this is just one exhibition that is a pathway to a museum. It's not just a memorial to the past, but as a living, breathing space to document the pain still happening today, to resist indifference, and to declare solidarity in the pursuit of freedom. Because one day, there will be a time in which the people of North Korea will be free, in which they will access information, in which they will speak their minds and laugh with their families and reclaim their voices. And when that day comes, we should be able to say, we did not just watch, we remembered, we spoke, and we acted. The North Korean Human Rights Museum is our promise for that day, not just as witnesses, but as partners in building a future with remembering. To those who say there's no solution, the museum will say, you may not have all the answers, but you can do something. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 영어가 훨씬 편하시군요.
So I understand she is much more comfortable in English, and I think that you can deliver your presentation in a language that you are comfortable in. So we heard from the panelists, and I think that we have about 10 minutes left, and so I would like to maybe take 2 questions from the floor, and then afterwards I think I will give our panelist, our ambassador, and also senior researcher fellow, Mr. Lee, to deliver their closing remarks. So we have members of the press joining us. If you have any questions, please raise your hand if you have a question, and then we will hand you the microphone.
만약에 특별한 의견이
If
없으시면
nobody has any comments, we will move. I see hands going up. Can we please hand the gentleman a mic? Please introduce yourself and then ask a question. If you direct your question to a panelist, that would be great. Could we get a mic over here?
예, 저기 그렇게 네, 주시면 되겠습니다.
I am with the steering committee of the Human Rights Violation Forum. Last year, the North Korean Defectors Day was designated, and many efforts have been made to advance North Korean human rights. I have two questions. There are South Koreans that are being held in North Korea, and of course Japanese citizens held in North Korea. And the government has largely remained silent about this issue, so I would like to hear what we can do about this particular issue. And second, question is to the German ambassador. You talked about how money was used to buy freedom, and I'm curious to know how you raised funds to use money to buy freedom.
So please hand the microphone over. If you could introduce yourself, please ask a question then, rather than giving us a comment. I am Han Jung-yeok. I work as a volunteer at a center that supports the North Korean defectors. I have a question about the unification of Germany.
As of 2007, North Korean defectors accounted to 10,000, and there was a ceremony to celebrate that, and a professor from Germany visited Korea and said that unification was not far off. At the time, he said that at the time of German unification, there were 100,000 East German defectors at the time. And he said, as we celebrated 10,000 North Korean defectors, because it's easy to go to 10,000 to 100,000, he foresaw that Korean unification was not far off. And so I was very happy with his comment, and I have kept my eye on the number of North Korean defectors, and currently we are at around 35,000, and we have yet to reach 100,000. And it was mentioned that now we only have around 67 North Korean defectors coming to North Korea every year. So my question is, how can we reach 100,000 North Korean defectors in Seoul? I think perhaps we could try to get the 30 or 40,000 North Korean women in China, and I think that we should find a way to bring them over to South Korea. What are some ways? And also I would like to ask the question whether really German unification was achieved when there were 100,000 East German defectors in West Germany. Ambassador?
No, I will. Basically, it's two. First about the Häftlingsfreikauf. How did we manage to do that? Just a quick reminder: about roughly 34,000 people were bought from East German prisons, and the prices were different depending on how important they were on the situation. It fluctuated, but it went up to 30 to 4,000 Deutschmark. Where did the money come from? I think this was your question. This was not raised by private funds. It was government money most of the time, and it was then used by East Germany. So the criticism against it is yes, you bought somebody into freedom, but the criticism against is, with this money, you're supporting the government in East Germany. And the second one, what I said in my presentation, you encourage them to take even more people into prison because they can sell them off. It was a humanitarian gesture to show that we do care, but it was a system which was criticized by many also at that time. In German, we say if you have breakfast with the devil, you have to have a very long spoon. And buying people out of prison in this system means that you have a long spoon. So I'm not saying it was the optimal solution, but it was for the people, for some people who came out, it was a big help because they could be out in freedom. For some people, they didn't even know that they were being negotiated upon, and some people said, no, I'd rather stay, and my place is here at home. I don't want to come to West Germany. It was a delicate subject. The other question, or half a comment, I think the situation is different in as much that at some point in time it was much easier for East German citizens also to come to West Germany than it is now for North Koreans to come to South Korea. We had an easing of restrictions, so you had family members, especially older families. East Germany would let them go and risk that they stay on. Actually, you could also just apply for leaving East Germany, which would get you into a lot of trouble, because it was an active statement. But you could actually, East Germany was a system that in the 80s allowed you to say, look, I want to leave, and then you would be harassed and hassled, but sometimes you could leave. Most of the time, what I said, older people who left and who then were no burden for the East German pension funds anymore. That's why they let them go. I do not think that their role was decisive in the events of 1989, 1990. Because for them, sometimes it was difficult to start a new life in West Germany, because if people from the outside reduced them to just being East German, many West Germans didn't know so much about it. And I think what Mr. Yi said also, like, East Germany is the same. It's not just political suppression. It was a very wide, it was culture, it was development, it had its own lifestyle, and many people felt very, very foreign in West Germany, although we shared the same language. So I would not say that theirs was the most contribution. We could have and we should have listened more to their experiences. Maybe would have been, as a society, better prepared for the challenges 1989, 1990 and after. It was more the pressure from people in East Germany who were frustrated with not only the lack of political freedoms, but very much frustrated by the lack of economic opportunities. But I'm happy to say something if there is a final round for that. Thank you.
네, 감사합니다. 대사님. 예, 어떻게 10만이 될 수 있을까 문제가 굉장히
So the comment by the audience was whether we can reach 100,000 North Korean defectors. I think Korea and Germany are very different in terms of geography. In Korea, unless you cross the DMZ, you have to go through a third country like China or Russia. And this route has become very difficult for North Korean defectors. There are double fences. For instance, in the past, the fence was only in North Korea, but nowadays, if you go to the Tuman River, you will notice that there are fences on the North Korean side and also the China and Russia side. But if you think about Germany, in the past, going from East Germany to West Germany was simply moving from one region to another region. So I think that the trend from 10,000 to 100,000 would have been far easier. And at the time, the international community, they probably found it difficult to intervene or halt this process. And I think that in that term, geography played a big part. And if you look at Berlin at the time, Berlin was within the larger territory of Germany. So the Berlin Wall collapsing, I think, was probably different than what would be considered for the DMZ coming down on the Korean Peninsula. And paradoxically, buying freedom with money, I think this sort of scheme must be based on a very high level of communication and communication skills. But I'm very skeptical as to whether such a high level of communication can be achieved between the two Koreas. And looking ahead, things don't look bright because North Korea continues to develop its nuclear weapons, and the nuclear missile threat is becoming more and more dire. So it's not easy to talk about these other issues.
So, Mr. Lee, you talked about in Geneva. So we talked about Japanese abductees, but the Korean abductees in North Korea, there are people, missionaries, people who were abducted and detained in North Korea. Maybe they were fishermen, and we're not being able to resolve this issue right now. And so I think compared to the Japanese government, perhaps, there are aspects where we can look back and try to make improvements. And Mr. Lee, you are originally from North Korea. Perhaps you have a different take on this issue, a different solution. I don't really have a special solution. I think that question is indeed a very difficult question, even for me. But if I can approach it a little bit differently, there are not only Korean missionaries that are detained in North Korea, but before there were U.S. missionaries, there were Canadian missionaries, and then there were Japanese that were abducted. So all of these people are detained by the North Korean regime, and how each country tried to resolve this issue was a little bit different. If you look at the United States, President Clinton would go to North Korea and try to bring home each and every of the Americans. The Canadian government, through the U.S., were able to bring back their people. Prime Minister Koizumi actually visited North Korea. They had 2 state meetings, and he tried to address the abduction issue, and he played a great role. So when your citizen is detained, of course, in the United States, as you know very well, it's a country full of people from different backgrounds and different ethnic groups. They all look different. They're of different ethnicity, but the people come together because the policies, the leadership actually shows that, the United States, the people come together under the American flag. And if the missionaries that are detained in North Korea, some religious group asked me this question a while ago. So I believe that the efforts of the government is most important, but if you look at the two Koreas, there is no contact, there's no communication taking place at all. So what sort of solution can you come up with? There are limitations in what the South Korean government can do. So the U.S., Japan, these countries, they can, through them, pressure North Korea, persuade North Korea, and if necessary, they might be able to provide economic incentives to North Korea. So the government's, I think, stance is most important, I think. I know it's very abstract, my answer, but in terms of the solution, what sort of concrete solutions do you have? I think that is something that I also have to continue to think about. So 14 countries have welcomed presidential envoys, and after these meetings, I'm sure that perhaps maybe there might be a presidential envoy that will be sent to North Korea. Then the presidential envoy, just as Mr. Lee mentioned, from a political point of view, maybe a high-level person could go, talk about the detained Koreans in North Korea and make efforts to bring them back home. Then I think the Korean people will fully support the activities of this presidential special envoy to North Korea. Because we are at the end of our time, I'm going to wrap our meeting. So Seoul Forum on North Korean Human Rights 2025 was hosted in part of the efforts of the Seoul Metropolitan Government to promote North Korean human rights. I would like to thank the ambassador from Germany, Honorable Georg Schmidt, Mr. Il-gyu, Ms. Kim In-jung, and Ms. Song Han-na, as well as everyone who has joined us today. Thank you very much. So thank you, everyone. So for everyone who is joining us at this forum, we are conducting a survey. So there is a QR code on the screen. If you scan the QR code, you will be able to share with us your feedback. And only when you complete the survey, you can receive a small souvenir that we have prepared. So please take a minute to fill out the survey, and we hope you will receive the souvenir. Please leave the receivers where you found them. So with this, we will conclude the Seoul Forum on North Korean Human Rights 2025. Thank you very much.